burn us. You can kill us.
I've rarely been more hyped about a show, and House of the Dragon has me hooked for good reason. In the afterglow of Game of Thrones, this was like a breath of fresh air, and the first season was spot on as a worthy prequel story featuring the Targaryens. However, the second season played the waiting game a bit too long and left us high and dry, waiting for the massive battle between the warring Targaryen families. Finally, the season 3 premiere does justice to all the anticipation, and just like all the early reviews had pointed out, the episode feels like the perfect start to a season that promises a lot more action. Now I know why showrunner Ryan Condal called this the craziest episode of TV ever made, and I can promise you that all your grievances about the second season will be gone after you watch this. In this video, I'll break down the episode for you and elaborate on the ending, so there will be major spoilers along the way. The iconic Game of Thrones theme doesn't ever get old, does it? I mean, it's been so long and I still can't bring myself to fast forward through the opening credits, and this time around the drums of war have been added to make it fit the context. The episode is aptly titled Salton Sea, Fire and Blood, and it starts off with Rhaena Targaryen, who aspires to tame the dragon Sheepstealer on the Vale of Arryn. This is exactly where we left off earlier, and the opening sequence is another daring attempt by Rhaena to approach the dragon. Sheepstealer is a massive unit, and he is far from timid, but Rhaena manages to hop on his back as he flies off. Later, when they land, Sheepstealer shakes her off, but she still tries to make him obey. From what I've seen of this dragon, he seems extremely unpredictable more than anything, which makes his role later in the episode all the more significant. He doesn't make a meal of Rhaena, doesn't hurt her directly, but he's in no mind to obey her as well. Again, when he flies in with sheep and roasts a piece for her with his fire, you almost feel like he does care for her at some level. Conspiracies in King's Landing. I guess you remember how things ended in Season 2, with Alicent making a deal with Rhaenyra. She would give her King's Landing and King Aegon in return for her and her daughter's safe passage, and this was perhaps the last possibility to avoid war. However, there's been a slight problem in this regard. The disfigured Aegon has escaped with Larys Strong, and this turns out to be a major issue for Alicent's plans. Meanwhile, Aemond is furious, and he nearly beheads Grand Maester Orwyll, who is treating Aegon because he suspects Orwyll of planning the escape. He gets saved at the very last minute when Aemond gets the news that Larys Strong is gone as well, and it all adds up. As for Alicent, her plans have to work differently now. She meets Aemond, who is ominously sitting on the Iron Throne. Initially, he's suspicious of his mother, and asks her where she was this last week. Alicent gets away by saying that she was in the Kingswood, but more importantly, she has enough skill with words to win over his confidence. All of a sudden, she's a loving mother who regrets Aemond not being on the throne earlier because he could have been a better king. The way I see it, her plan only works if Aemond and his dragon Vhagar are away from King's Landing, and she has to convince him to do so. As of now, Aemond is just sitting on the throne, and he's also summoned Lord Ormond and the 15,000 Hightower men. This is anything but ending the war, and time is running out fast. Alicent also asks Helaena about the whereabouts of her husband Aegon, and it seems like she knows something about the plan. I love how Helaena has grown so much wiser, and she's insightful enough to know that Aemond is somewhat fearful of Rhaenyra's dragon, and he knows that he might lose such an encounter. On her part, Alicent does her best to keep the plan alive, and she sends a letter for Lord Ormond, falsely indicating that it is from the king. Now, this is one character that I will be watching keenly for the rest of the season. He's skeptical of Aemond declaring himself king, but he reads the letter, and it asks him to wait there for 3 days until Aemond arrives. In short, this is a sound delay tactic by Alicent, who's buying more time for Rhaenyra to take the city. Back in the Red Keep, Alicent continues to influence Aemond and urges him to go to Harrenhal. She's truly the daughter of Otto Hightower because she knows just the right things to say. She convinces Aemond that she truly cares for him, and she asks him to go to Harrenhal. As Helaena had rightfully guessed, Aemond is hesitant and scared even though he tries his best to put on a strong front. Alicent convinces him further by saying that Daemon's dragon is no match for him, and if he could kill Caraxes, it would be a huge blow to Rhaenyra. She does this while calling him courageous and reminding him that she cannot afford to lose him. And I wonder what it takes for a mother to go to such an extent in order to avoid the war that could potentially destroy everything she holds dear. Well, it works for now because Aemond promises to hold a feast in her honor after he conquers Harrenhal. A defining moment for me during this sequence is when Aemond leans in to kiss Alicent and she is absolutely horrified, but does well to mask it with a smile. I can promise you that even with all your GOT experience, you'll find this scene uncomfortable and disturbing. What is Larys Strong really up to? Ever since he was first introduced in the show, I've always been suspicious of this man because it's always so difficult to predict what's going on in his mind. As of now, he's on the road with Aegon, and this might bring back memories for many. I immediately remembered how Lord Varys once traveled like this with Tyrion Lannister, but this journey is interrupted rather awkwardly. Larys Strong and Aegon are in a raven cart, and Aegon is distraught about his current condition, where he says he's the king of nothing with raven shit for a throne and a cripple for a bodyguard. But things do further go downhill when their cart is stopped by soldiers who demand that they renounce the usurper, which is basically Aegon himself. Now, Larys is smart enough to obey, but Aegon is too proud to bend the knee to the true Queen Rhaenyra. Also, I wonder if he's fit enough to bend the knee in the first place. This is where we have a major twist because Larys Strong flips out almost immediately. He tells the soldier that Aegon is actually Aegon Targaryen and even hands over his crown as proof. The soldier orders for them to be beheaded, but Larys reminds him that there will be a higher price for getting them alive. Well, what's his real game here? I would think that he simply does this to save their lives, but surely there was another way to do so than revealing Aegon's identity to the enemy camp. I'll be watching this one closely because I find it rather intriguing that Larys Strong is so invested in this. Daemon doing what he does best, and Criston Cole being a depressed philosopher. War is not pretty and aesthetic, and we get a taste of that when Daemon is shown fighting somewhere in Westeros. He's slaughtering enemy forces, and Caraxes is taking care of the bodies. This battle sequence is short, but it's enough to show you the true horrors of war. Bodies are everywhere, and many of these bodies are badly mutilated, and the killing scenes are horrifying. Nevertheless, the major takeaway from this battle sequence is that Daemon gains some new allies as these rugged soldiers arrive to fight and die for the Dragon Queen. What's more, they also have the head of Jason Lannister, and Daemon is happy enough to have these new buddies. In case it slipped your mind, Jason's identical twin, Tyland, is there at the Gullet, and that's going to be one hell of a battle for the final bits of this episode. Meanwhile, Criston Cole acts a sorry sight as he's shown waiting it out in the woods. His men are engaging in all kinds of atrocities from pillaging to raping, and his second-in-command is concerned. But Criston Cole can hardly be bothered. He's simply painting his shield and waiting for Aemon to show up, and the other things are insignificant to him. I secretly enjoyed seeing him like this because he isn't exactly my favorite character, but seriously, man, what a waste. The stranded dragon riders and the Green Man. With so much happening all around, it's almost easy to forget about the elevated dragon riders, Ulf, Adam, and Hugh, and they're all stranded for now, waiting for Vhagar to pass by. The conversations between them are amusing, especially with Ulf's excitement about getting a castle after this is all over, which is, of course, not going to happen. What's interesting about this little gathering is what they find later. So Ulf is a bit spooked by this place, and while taking a dump, he hears something and panics. When he runs back to camp, Hugh wonders if Aemon knew they were coming, and even ponders running back to Dragonstone. Suddenly, they see a strange creature with antlers on the ledge, and I think this is the Green Man. Now, not much is known about the Green Man, but they did have a brief appearance during one of Daemon's visions of the Song of Ice and Fire. Before they can flee, Alice Rivers shows up and tells them that they're missing the Battle of Dragonstone. I'm also curious about what Alice is up to, but the scene just ends with Ulf leaving immediately. Battle plans in Dragonstone and the prelude to the Battle of the Gullet. Back in Dragonstone, it's a matter of great debate whether to believe Alicent's proposal. Rhaenyra ponders over the deal, and she's finding it rather difficult to come to a conclusive decision. Also, her son Jace seems to think that it's just a trap to draw her out, but I think the final straw is the information on the Battle of the Gullet. When Baela Targaryen enters the small council room with the news of the war, Jace is further convinced that Rhaenyra should not be heading out because this is a huge risk. Rhaenyra, however, is determined to join the action, and Jace does the unthinkable when he convinces her Queensguard to lock her in a room so that she cannot endanger her life. It's treason when you think about it, but Jace is sure that he's doing this for the greater good of protecting the queen. He tells Baela that they are both ready as dragon riders and they can ride into battle together instead of Rhaenyra. So while they fly out to one of the most hostile naval battles, Rhaenyra sits locked up in her room with a sense of betrayal breaking her heart. But now, this is the time for the real showstopper of the episode, the Battle of the Gullet. The Battle of the Gullet is one of the best war scenes in the entire franchise. I know this is sounding like a rather tall claim, especially from a franchise that is known for some of the best war sequences ever, but the Battle of the Gullet is truly special. I love how it all starts so eerily after Corlys brings Alan to his cabin for a drink and to apologize to his bastard son. But this is no time for their reunion, and the ringing of alarms interrupts them. The Triarchy approaches, and they have quite a significant naval strength. The Triarchy commander, Sharako Lohar, is an absolute badass. But I have to admit, she has more plot armor than actual armor. I mean, she and her men don't have proper battle gear, and they're experts in fighting trained men in metal armor. She dismisses Tywin Lannister, and she has no real love for the crown either. She just wants revenge, and her focus is on Corlys alone. I wonder what really went down between her and the Sea Snake, but she just says that he's killed many of her men. But her obsession with Corlys also means that she has no real battle strategy here either. Soon is battle time, and hell unleashes on the waters as rival ships fire crossbows and fireballs at each other. Corlys is actually outnumbered, but he still has better strategy. After realizing that Shirako Lohar is really locked onto him, he decides to head straight for her ship. Tyland is the sensible voice, focused more on the battle, but Shirako cares little about anything other than her vengeance. But in the nick of time, Jace and Bela join the fight on their dragons Vermax and Moondancer. It's a solid reminder of the time when Queen Daenerys torched ships on her dragon in Game of Thrones. But Lohar has powerful harpoons, and one of them hooks Vermax almost immediately, even though Moondancer is able to free Vermax for now. Meanwhile, Corlys leads Lohar through a strange boat chase through shallow and perilous waters. He knows the terrain like the back of his hand, and Lohar loses a couple of her boats in this pursuit. Also, it's hilarious to see her toss the Lannister men in the water in order to make the boat lighter. Eventually, her boat does follow through and rams straight into Corlys' boat, leading to a violent face-off. Alan fights bravely, and Lohar and Corlys exchange a few powerful hits. Finally, it's Alan who attacks her one-on-one and kills her. I wish we had more of this awesome pirate lady, but the stage is set for something bigger here. As for Corlys, he's ended up in the water, but there's no telling whether or not he's dead. But the real twist of the Battle of the Gullet comes late. Rhaena shows up on Sheepstealer, and it might not be her smartest idea to bring an untamed dragon into battle. Soon, Sheepstealer starts attacking both friend and foe, and Jace rides in on an injured Vermax thinking that this is an enemy dragon. By the time he realizes it's Rhaena, he veers away, but this gives another harpoon the chance to get Vermax. The dragon is dragged into the water, and even though Jace manages to free himself and swim above, he's shot with arrows. So there you have it, the first major battle that makes it clear there will be no winner in this war. Yeah, she may have technically won the Battle of the Gullet, but I wonder what Rhaenyra's response would be when she finds out about the death of Jace. If the early reviews are to be believed, the first 4 episodes are eventful and full of twists and turns. And since the show isn't really going by the source material, there's no predicting what comes next. All you can be sure of is more chaos to follow and the battle to get bloodier. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this cinematic episode and the grand Battle of the Gullet. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell so when we have more House of the Dragon content, you find out first. Have a great day, stay safe, and as always, stay marvelous.